Welcome, curious minds, to a journey beyond time itself. Today, we uncover 10 monsters so ancient they predate creation, beings older than gods, older than the cosmos, whose existence defies everything we know about reality. These are not mere legends or myths, they are primordial horrors that slumbered before the first stars ignited, lurking in the shadows of eternity. From creatures that shaped the foundations of existence to entities that hunger beyond the veil of time, prepare to witness a world where the unimaginable is real. Dare to explore the monsters older than creation itself. 10 monsters so old they predate creation itself. The Ogdoad, serpent-headed beings of the primordial waters. In the dawn of time, before the rise of cities and temples, before the sun had taken its first flight across the sky, the world was but a vast, silent ocean. This was none, the endless, primordial waters, infinite and formless, encompassing all potential and hiding the secrets of existence yet to unfold. Within this boundless expanse lived entities so ancient and so mysterious that their essence defied human comprehension. They were not gods in the sense later generations would recognize, they were principles, personifications of the cosmic conditions that made creation possible. These were the Ogdoad, the 8 primordial deities of Hermopolis, whose forms and powers transcended the limits of the mortal mind. The Ogdoad consisted of 4 male-female pairs, each embodying a fundamental aspect of the chaotic waters that preceded creation. Their nature was dual, male energy was serpentine, female energy was frog-like, a reflection of the Egyptian understanding of life emerging from water. Their serpentine heads, eyes gleaming with hidden wisdom, symbolized eternity, cyclicality, and the coiled potential of existence. They were Nun and Nornit, representing the boundless waters themselves, He and Horhet, embodying infinite space and eternity, Kek and Korkit, the darkness that enveloped the void, and Amun and Amornit, the hidden force, the concealed power behind all creation. Together, they formed a cosmic balance, a synergy of opposites, a harmony of potentials waiting to give rise to the universe. Long before the first rays of the sun, the Ogdoad stirred the waters of Nun with their immense, silent energy. The chaos was alive, not in the sense of turmoil, but as a concentrated, latent power. These beings did not create through words or conflict, they existed as concepts made flesh. Nun's waters reflected their forms, the ripples tracing serpentine curves, as though the universe itself acknowledged their presence. Some ancient texts describe these movements as a cosmic rhythm, a primordial heartbeat resonating in the vast emptiness. The Ogdoad were not solitary in their operation. Each pair reflected and amplified the essence of the other, the male serpent and the female frog formed a unity, representing both motion and fertility. Serpent-headed males symbolized continuity and the endless cycles of time, frog-headed females represented fecundity and transformation. The Egyptians observed the behavior of frogs in the Nile, emerging from the river, laying countless eggs, and vanishing as mysteriously as they appeared. This natural phenomenon was mirrored in the myth of the Ogdoad. Life itself was born from the silent, hidden powers of the universe. Of all the Ogdoad, Nun and Nornit were the most ancient, representing the undifferentiated waters that contained all potential. Nun was the male serpent whose coils encircled the unmanifest universe, while Nornit, the female frog, mirrored his shape, her body blending seamlessly into the waters. They were both passive and active, an eternal tension between containment and release. The Egyptians believed that from Nun, all life and matter eventually emerged, but only after the other forces of the Ogdoad had stirred the waters into dynamic equilibrium. He and Horhet, embodying infinite space and eternity, ensured that the expanse of the cosmos was limitless. He's serpentine body stretched across the heavens, each scale a measure of endless time. Horhet's frog form floated above and below, a reflection of the invisible forces holding the cosmos together. The ancient Egyptians revered them as protectors of the celestial order, the silent keepers who maintained the vastness of creation even before it existed. Without He and Horhet, the waters of Nun might have remained stagnant, and the universe would have remained an eternal potential, never manifesting as form. The pair Kek and Korkit, darkness and obscurity, had the most fearsome presence. Their serpentine and frog forms were often depicted in Egyptian iconography with bodies black as the void and eyes glowing like coals, piercing the emptiness. They represented the shadow that precedes light, the unseen foundation upon which the visible world rests. The Egyptians saw darkness not as evil but as necessary for creation. Without Kek and Korkit, light could not emerge, for its existence requires contrast. Some texts suggest that these two beings, in their silent movement across Nun, generated the first flickers of illumination, the cosmic sparks that would later form the sun. Finally, Amun and Amarnit, the hidden ones, were perhaps the most enigmatic. Unlike the others, their presence was imperceptible to mortal eyes. Amun, the male serpent, was the hidden wind, the concealed breath of the universe, while Amarnit, the female frog, was the unseen current beneath the waters. They were the secret force behind the visible manifestations of creation. The Egyptians would later associate Amun with kingship and divinity, but in the context of the Ogdoad, he and Amarnit symbolized the latent energy that, when released, could bring form out of chaos. The Ogdoad did not act as independent agents, they existed in a state of cosmic equilibrium, their energies intertwined. Creation occurred not as a deliberate act but as a spontaneous emergence, a natural unfolding of the principles they embodied. Some texts describe the first land rising from Nun as a result of their combined vibrations, the waters coagulating into a mound known as the Benben, the Primeval Hill. From this mound, the first god, Atum, emerged, initiating the process of life, order, and civilization. Atum was often depicted as the self-created god, but the Ogdoad were the unseen foundation that allowed his emergence. Without their latent power, the Benben would never have risen. Without the Ogdoad, Atum's creation was impossible. In this sense, the Ogdoad were not creators in the conventional sense, they were primordial conditions. They exemplified the Egyptian belief that the universe emerges from the interplay of eternal principles rather than from acts of personal volition. Water, eternity, darkness, infinity, and hidden power, these were the building blocks of reality, and the Ogdoad personified them. They were a cosmic template, an archetypal code embedded in the very fabric of existence. The myths also convey the Ogdoad's enduring relevance. Even after the sun had risen and the gods of the visible pantheon had taken their places in the Egyptian hierarchy, the Ogdoad remained. They were revered in Hermopolis, where priests maintained temples dedicated to these primordial entities. Rituals often involved water, reflecting the belief that the Nile itself was a manifestation of Nun. Offerings of milk, honey, and incense were made to acknowledge the unseen forces, ensuring that the equilibrium of the universe remained undisturbed. By honoring the Ogdoad, the Egyptians maintained a symbolic connection to the cosmic waters, a reminder that even the mightiest gods were dependent on these hidden forces. The symbolism of the serpent and frog was profound. Serpents were creatures of cyclical energy, shedding their skins and renewing themselves, reflecting the eternal nature of the Ogdoad. Frogs, emerging from the waters and multiplying rapidly, symbolized fertility and the sudden emergence of life. Together, the forms of the Ogdoad represented the union of eternity and potential, chaos and fertility, the invisible and the manifest. Their imagery was not meant for literal worship alone, it was a visual philosophy, a meditation on the forces that govern reality. Despite their primordial status, the Ogdoad were not static. Ancient texts hint at their interaction with one another, a subtle interplay that set the stage for creation. Nun and Nornit's waters could surge and recede, Hean-Horhet could expand the cosmic space, Kek and Korkit could deepen the darkness, and Amun and Amarnit could generate hidden currents. Together, these movements created patterns, rhythms, and eventual points of emergence where the first acts of creation could occur. This dynamic, subtle motion was the essence of Egyptian cosmology. Creation was not instantaneous, it was a slow, rhythmic process, guided by principles rather than conscious intention. The Ogdoad's legacy is profound. While later generations focused on the sun gods, the pharaohs, and the more anthropomorphic deities of the Egyptian pantheon, the Ogdoad remind us that all visible creation is rooted in invisible, abstract principles. They are a metaphor for the hidden architecture of the universe, a testament to the Egyptians' profound understanding of nature, time, and the cycles of existence. Their serpent heads, their frog forms, and their duality encapsulate the notion that life emerges from water, order emerges from chaos, and reality emerges from potential. Even today, the Ogdoad continues to inspire modern interpretations of ancient Egyptian cosmology. Scholars see in them a sophisticated conceptualization of pre-creation states, a symbolic language describing forces that are otherwise intangible. Artists and writers have reimagined their forms as cosmic serpents, celestial frogs, or metaphysical archetypes, bridging the ancient worldview with contemporary explorations of creation and the nature of the universe. The Ogdoad are more than mythic beings, they are the embodiment of the forces that precede existence. They dwell in the silent, undisturbed waters of Nun, waiting, coiled and still, until the universe is ready to emerge. Their story is not of conflict, conquest, or speech, but of balance, duality, and hidden potential. The serpents of eternity, the frogs of fertility, the unseen currents and darkness, all together form the foundation of reality itself. To study the Ogdoad is to study the preconditions of life, the hidden mechanisms of creation, and the cosmic equilibrium that sustains the world. They remind us that before form, before gods, before civilization, there existed the waters, the principles, and the silent, eternal guardians of the universe, the Ogdoad, the serpent-headed beings of the primordial waters. NHGGR, the great devourer beneath creation. Beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree, where shadows gather and the winds of time stir ancient decay, there lies a creature older than memory itself. NHGGR, the great devourer, gnaws ceaselessly at the roots of the cosmic tree, a being whose hunger mirrors the inexorable march of entropy and destruction. It is said that every shred of decay, every bitter thought, every betrayal or sin in the realms above finds its way into the underworld, fueling the eternal appetite of NHGGR. The story begins long before the ages of gods and men, in the void of Ginnungagap. Before light broke through, before ice met fire to form the primordial lands, there existed only chaos and potential. Out of this void, Yggdrasil rose, an immense ash tree that connected all realms, Asgard, Midgard, Jotunheim, Alfheim, and Hell itself. Its roots plunged into Niflheim, the land of frost and mist, where the springs of wisdom and fate converged. It was there, among the swirling mists and the echoes of the void, that NHGGR first awakened. NHGGR is not merely a serpent or a dragon, though its form resembles both, it is the embodiment of gnawing destruction. Its eyes burn with a cold, greenish light, like the faint glow of rot deep within the earth. Its jaws are strong enough to rend stone and root alike, yet delicate enough to pull threads of life and destiny with precise malice. The creature is patient, waiting eons for the decay to reach it, for the rot to taste just right. It is a being that exists outside the morality of gods and men, a reminder that decay is as natural as growth, and destruction as necessary as creation. The first myth of NHGGR recounts the tale of the first betrayal in the cosmos. Once, among the roots of Yggdrasil, a dark spirit of malice whispered into the ear of the primordial giant, Ymir. Ymir, whose sweat birthed the first frost giants, was struck by envy and desire. The spirit's whispers wound through his heart, and as he plotted against his kin, NHGGR sensed the first taste of corruption. From the depths of Niflheim, the creature stirred, its body coiling like a river of shadow. It gnawed at the roots closest to the source of Ymir's malice, feeding not on flesh, but on the bitterness that had entered the world. This was the first lesson: NHGGR feeds not on mortality alone, but on the decay of intent, on the rot of soul and spirit. When Odin, Vili, and Ve slew Ymir to form the worlds, NHGGR observed silently. From the decay of Ymir's body, the cosmos was formed, the mountains from flesh, the seas from blood, the skies from skull. NHGGR, ever hungry, gnawed at the root nearest to this fresh creation. Its hunger is eternal, as much a force of nature as gravity or time. The serpent or dragon beneath Yggdrasil became a mirror of the cosmos itself, a cycle of creation and destruction, life and decay. As the gods crafted Midgard for humans, NHGGR's presence ensured that corruption and mortality would follow. No matter how divine the act of creation, NHGGR reminds all beings that nothing escapes decay. The Poetic Edda recounts Nhggr's malevolent role during Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. When the heavens shake and fire and ice meet in cataclysm, Nhggr emerges from beneath Yggdrasil, gnawing and tearing at its roots with a frenzy unmatched. It is said that Nhggr, in its final surge, drags corpses from hell, feeding on the souls of the damned and the dishonored. Its eyes gleam with satisfaction as the end of all things unfolds, for it has always been present as the inevitable counterpoint to creation. Yet Nhggr is not evil in a moral sense, it is natural law embodied, a force as essential as the breath of life itself. Without Nhggr, decay would not exist, entropy would halt, and the balance of the cosmos would fracture. Legends whisper that Nhggr is not alone. Beneath Yggdrasil, rats, serpents, and other foul creatures gnaw at the roots, but none with the focus or power of Nhggr. Some scholars suggest that these creatures are extensions of its will, tiny agents of decay, ensuring that the world tree, and all existence it supports, remains in delicate balance. The serpent is a constant reminder to gods and mortals alike, to flourish is to risk destruction, and to build is to invite decay. Despite its terrifying visage, Nhggr's story is one of necessary balance. When humans fell from grace, when betrayal and hatred festered in Midgard, Nhggr consumed the essence of these sins. Its role is paradoxically protective. By consuming the corruption at the roots of creation, it prevents the rot from consuming the tree entirely. The cycle of gnawing and growth ensures that Yggdrasil remains alive, albeit scarred and battered. Mortals may curse Nhggr, fear its shadow, but in truth, the world requires it as much as it requires sunlight and rain. The Norse saw in Nhggr a reflection of their own understanding of life. Life is fleeting, fragile, and often cruel. The serpent beneath the tree embodies this principle, showing that decay is inseparable from existence. Even the gods are not exempt from its grasp. Odin himself sacrifices for wisdom, and yet, even he cannot stop the gnawing of Nhggr. Thor may slay giants and monsters above the ground, but beneath Yggdrasil, the great devourer continues its ceaseless work, indifferent to glory or heroism. This cosmic humility reinforces the Norse worldview: all things, even the divine, are subject to time and decay. One of the most haunting images of Nhggr is the one in which it drinks from the wells of hell, mixing the essence of death with the decay of the roots. The serpent, though monstrous, represents the interconnectedness of life and death, creation and destruction. Just as the tree draws nourishment from its roots, the world draws lessons from decay. Humanity's mortality, its suffering, and its inevitable decline are all reflections of Nhggr's endless gnawing. To ignore its existence is to deny the truth of life, that growth and rot, joy and sorrow, are two sides of the same coin. In sagas passed down orally through the centuries, Nhggr often serves as a cautionary symbol. Mortals are warned against excessive pride, betrayal, or cruelty, for such acts add fuel to the serpent's hunger. Kings who rule unjustly, warriors who break oaths, and merchants who exploit the weak, all contribute to the gnawing beneath Yggdrasil. Yet, paradoxically, this consumption is not purely punitive. By feeding on these acts, Nhggr prevents corruption from spreading unchecked, maintaining the equilibrium of the cosmos. Its destruction is both fearsome and necessary, a reminder that even malevolence has purpose within the grand tapestry. Nhggr's role in Norse cosmology also mirrors the human condition. Just as the serpent gnaws at the roots of the world tree, human ambition, envy, and cruelty gnaw at the fabric of society. The myths encourage reflection, suggesting that awareness and humility can mitigate decay. While humans cannot stop death or entropy, they can choose to act justly, to honor bonds and traditions, and to resist the forces that empower Nhggr. In this way, the serpent becomes a teacher, its hunger a reflection of the consequences of imbalance and sin. Perhaps the most profound aspect of Nhggr is its immortality. While gods may age, die, or meet their end during Ragnarok, Nhggr persists. Its presence ensures that creation remains dynamic, never stagnant. Each new leaf of Yggdrasil, each generation of gods and humans, is a temporary respite from decay. NHGGR waits patiently beneath the surface, gnawing, consuming, and shaping the fate of all. In the endless cycles of Norse mythology, birth, life, death, and rebirth, the serpent embodies continuity through destruction, the eternal rhythm of existence. In modern interpretation, NHGGR often serves as a metaphor for unseen forces that influence life. Economists, historians, and philosophers might liken it to entropy, societal decay, or inevitable mortality. Artists depict it coiled beneath immense trees, eyes glowing with ancient knowledge, jaws ready to devour the impure. Writers use its image to explore themes of balance, consequence, and the invisible costs of creation. The great devourer beneath Yggdrasil reminds us that no action exists in isolation, all reverberates through the roots of existence, feeding forces beyond our comprehension. Ultimately, NHGGR is not a villain in the conventional sense. It is neither malevolent nor benevolent. It is eternal, natural, and essential. To fear it is to recognize the fragility of existence, to respect it is to understand the balance of life and death. The great devourer beneath the world tree is a cosmic truth rendered in myth. Creation cannot exist without destruction, growth without decay, light without shadow. In the quiet gnawing beneath Yggdrasil, the cosmos whispers a lesson older than the gods themselves. All things rise and fall, and in the fall, there is meaning. As Ragnarok approaches, as the worlds tremble, NHGGR will rise, gnawing with renewed ferocity. Yet even in the cataclysm, life will find a way. From the ruins of destruction, Yggdrasil will regrow, and the cycles will continue. NHGGR's hunger will never end, but neither will creation. The serpent beneath the roots ensures that nothing is permanent, that all must change, and that even in the darkest decay, there lies the seed of renewal. To the Norse, this was not despair but wisdom. In destruction lies the promise of life, and in the hunger of NHGGR, the eternal rhythm of existence endures. Explanation. NHGGR is a symbol of natural decay and cosmic balance in Norse mythology. Its gnawing represents the inevitability of death, corruption, and entropy, reminding gods and mortals alike that creation is temporary and fragile. While terrifying, it serves a necessary role, consuming corruption before it spreads, maintaining the stability of Yggdrasil. Unlike other mythological monsters, NHGGR is neither evil nor heroic. It is a force of nature, reflecting the Norse understanding that destruction is as fundamental as creation. Its presence teaches humility, the acceptance of mortality, and the interconnection of life and death, embodying the cycles of the cosmos. Qianlong, the celestial dragon of pre-cosmic mist. Long before the first mountain pierced the sky, before rivers carved paths into the unborn earth, and before the first sun scattered its golden light across nothingness, there was the mist. Not the clouds that float in human skies, but the pre-cosmic mist, a primordial shroud that wrapped existence in silence and shapelessness. In this boundless grey, there stirred a being older than thought, older than time, a dragon of infinite wingspan, scales like molten starlight, and eyes reflecting the deep potential of creation itself. This was Qianlong, the celestial dragon, guardian and weaver of the nascent universe. Qianlong had no origin, for there was no before. Some say he arose from the essence of the mist itself, a condensation of the primal chaos into consciousness. Others claim that he had always been, that the mist had merely been waiting for him to stir. He moved with a rhythm older than breathing, and wherever his wings brushed the mist, the space shimmered with potential, tiny sparks of what would one day become worlds. The celestial dragon was neither male nor female, though later human storytellers, attempting to impose limits, often depicted him as male. He existed as intention itself, the blueprint of order emerging from chaos. His body, enormous and serpentine, stretched across realms that did not yet exist. His scales were translucent and reflected the first seeds of light, though no sun yet shone. Each movement he made was a thought, and each thought rippled across the mist like a stone thrown into water, forming ripples that would eventually become stars, mountains, rivers, and life. It is said that Qianlong could sense the possibility of things. He could see where a mountain might rise, a river might wind, or a tree might root. But in the beginning, the mist resisted, swirling and folding upon itself. For all its potential, the mist was indifferent, a blank canvas unwilling to become a painting. Qianlong, however, was patient. His first task was simple in thought but impossible in execution: to bring coherence to the mist, to introduce the first patterns of existence. With a deep, resonant exhalation, Qianlong sent out a breath so vast that it expanded the mist into currents. Within these currents, his eyes traced the beginnings of differentiation. Here, he nudged the mist to coalesce; there, he allowed it to remain fluid. He spun in circles, creating vortices that would become galaxies, though the word galaxy did not yet exist. Stars ignited within his gaze, small pinpricks of possibility that illuminated the surrounding mist. Yet Qianlong knew these stars alone were not enough. To shape reality, he needed fire and water, earth and air, but these were not elements yet, they were merely potential vibrations within the mist. As Qianlong drifted, he became aware of a deep tension in the mist, a duality that would shape all things to come. One half leaned toward order, craving structure and form. The other half leaned toward chaos, seeking to resist definition and remain endless and uncontainable. Qianlong did not fear the chaos, for he himself was born of it, but he understood that creation required balance. And so he decided to weave a cosmic loom, using his own body as thread, to intertwine these opposing currents. He coiled and uncoiled, forming spirals and arcs. His scales scattered faint sparks that became the first sparks of elemental forces. From his fiery breath, heat began to condense; from the cool sweep of his wings, currents of water emerged. Wherever his claws dragged through the mist, roughness appeared, foreshadowing mountains. Where his tail swept lightly, rivers began to trace possible courses. And where his eyes lingered, life quivered in nascent form, though not yet sentient. Yet the process was not without trial. The mist, aware of Qianlong's shaping, occasionally rebelled. Whirls would twist against his efforts, currents would clash violently, and shapes he intended to stabilize would collapse. To overcome these trials, Qianlong had to perform the dance of endurance, a slow, eternal rotation that aligned the chaotic energies without extinguishing their vitality. With each rotation, the mist gradually yielded, learning to accommodate both order and freedom, both permanence and impermanence. Legends tell of a pivotal moment during this primordial dance. Qianlong sought to birth the first celestial bodies, the suns and moons that would illuminate the void. He gathered concentrated portions of the mist into spheres within his claws. As he prepared to ignite them with his inner fire, a massive wave of pure chaos surged, threatening to undo centuries of careful weaving. Qianlong's body coiled in defense, scales radiating protective auras. He unleashed a breath so powerful that it split the rebellious chaos into fragments, some of which would eventually fall as meteors or comets, scattering seeds of life across unborn worlds. From these trials emerged Qianlong's greatest gift, foresight. The dragon realized that creation could not be forced, it had to be guided patiently. He adopted a principle that would echo through Chinese cosmology for millennia, that all things are interconnected, that the balance of yin and yang must be maintained, and that even chaos has its place in the order of things. In essence, Qianlong was the first teacher of harmony, long before gods or mortals existed to hear his lessons. As Qianlong continued shaping the mist, he became aware of a new phenomenon, echoes of intention from the future. Tiny reflections of beings yet unborn stirred faintly in the mist, hinting at consciousness. Intrigued, the dragon allowed these echoes to flourish, guiding them without imposing form. These were the first whispers of sentience, delicate and fleeting, dancing along the currents of his creation. Qianlong understood that one day, these echoes would become the myriad creatures of the earth, including humans, dragons, and spirits alike. But not all of Qianlong's efforts were gentle. In shaping reality, he sometimes had to consume excess potential, absorbing fragments of the mist that resisted order. Each act of consumption left faint scars in the fabric of the emerging cosmos, gaps and rifts that would one day become voids, abysses, or the spaces between stars. These voids were not mistakes, they were essential to balance, reminders that creation required both presence and absence. As the pre-cosmic mist gradually thinned, a realm of light and shadow emerged, a stage ready for the first gods, spirits, and ancestors to appear. Qianlong, sensing that his role as primary shaper was nearing completion, performed his final act. He coiled into the center of the emerging universe, stretching his body across dimensions. From his own essence, he cast out threads of celestial energy, which became the invisible forces binding reality together, gravity, harmony, and the flow of time itself. He then ascended to a higher plane, no longer tied to the immediate shaping of matter, but remaining ever watchful, a guardian of cosmic balance. Even today, legends claim, Qianlong continues to move through the universe, now imperceptible to mortal eyes. His wings stir the auroras of distant planets, his breath influences the cycles of stars, and his gaze ensures that chaos never entirely overwhelms order. In Chinese myths, when a dragon is seen among clouds or a sudden comet streaks the night sky, it is sometimes said to be Qianlong gliding through the cosmos, reminding all that creation is an ongoing dance between order and chaos, form and potential. Scholars of mythology often see Qianlong as a symbol of pre-cosmic intelligence, a being embodying the Daoist principles of balance, harmony, and the subtle interplay of yin and yang. Unlike later dragons, which are associated with rivers, rain, or imperial power, Qianlong transcends the terrestrial. He is a cosmic architect, an agent of the primordial Tao, shaping the universe before it could even be called a universe. Through him, the myths encode the idea that creation is not a single event but a continuous process, a flowing, living balance of forces that must be maintained through vigilance and wisdom. In art and folklore, Qianlong is sometimes depicted as a serpentine dragon coiling around a swirling mist, with a luminous orb clutched in his claws, symbolizing the potential of all worlds yet to exist. His scales are often shown with tiny stars embedded within them, representing the sparks of creation that emerged from his breath. Children's tales speak of him as a teacher of patience, reminding humans that all things, from mountains to minds, require careful shaping and the right alignment of forces. In essence, Qianlong is the first dragon of philosophy and creation, the bridge between nothingness and existence, chaos and order. His story reminds us that before the first word, before the first thought, there was intention, and that from intention, the universe itself can be born. The celestial dragon of pre-cosmic mist embodies the eternal truth that creation is never complete, it is a dance, a breath, a coiling that continues across all time and space. And in that dance, Qianlong moves silently, eternally, carrying the memory of the mist and the promise of all things yet to come. And there you have it, 10 monsters older than creation itself, beings that existed before time, space, and even the first gods. Their stories remind us how vast, strange, and terrifying the universe truly is. If these ancient horrors fascinated or unsettled you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. There's much more lurking in the shadows of history and mythology waiting to be revealed. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which monster shocked you the most? Remember, some things are so ancient and powerful, they might just outlast us all.